Get ready with me as I tell you guys a story of how I lost all my luggage and my designer items while I was traveling back from Paris. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if it's your first time on this channel, welcome. My name is Sue. You guys can call me Sue, and today I'm just going to be telling you guys a story about how I lost all my luggage when I was traveling back from Paris. So I moved to the UK from South Africa in February 2023, and one of the things that I was excited to do was to travel. So as soon as I got here, I was already applying for my Schengen visa, and it was such a difficult process. I did not realize how many people will be applying for that Schengen visa at the same time, so there were no appointment slots to do your application. So I did struggle a bit with that. And one of my managers at work recommended that I try with Switzerland because apart from having slots, they also give you a few months. So if you try with others, they can give you just a month Schengen visa. And if you try with Switzerland, usually like their first visa that they issue you is 3 months, and then you can get maybe 6 months after that. So I started trying with Switzerland, and this like worked well with the fact that one of my friends had just moved from South Africa to France, and they were living like on the edge of France in a town called Annecy, in a city called Annecy. So the nearest airport to that city was Geneva, which is in Switzerland. So then it was going to work out well for me to say, okay, I have the Switzerland visa and I'm entering through Switzerland into Europe. So fine, right? I start applying for my visa. I'm excited. I am not getting slots, but eventually this one day I just found a slot, and I think I just got onto the website as they had just released the slots. So I got my slot and I had my appointment booked, and from there I think it wasn't as difficult because it was just a matter of now taking your documents, your bank statements, everything to TLS, who are the ones that process the visas. So eventually my visa came out. I got 3 months and I was like, okay, let's go. So I was gonna land in Switzerland and then like kind of see my friend for a few days, like maybe a week. I think it was a week, and then from there I was gonna then go to Paris. So basically it was like I was gonna see Switzerland, see a bit of Annecy, France, and then I was gonna go to Paris because one of my first destinations that I wanted to see was Paris. But it just worked out well that I also had a friend who lived in France. So I was just like, okay, at least I don't just have to go and see Paris only. I can see other cities as well. So I landed in Switzerland. So you guys know, if you have moved to London and your goal is to travel, of course when you get the chance you're gonna pack your best clothes. So I literally packed my best clothes. I decided that okay, it's time to bring out all those best dresses that I had been keeping and saying, okay, I'm gonna wear when I go to Paris. So I had even just bought my Louis Vuittons, and I was like, yeah, those match with most of my Paris outfits. So I packed those as well. You know when you pack for a trip and I pack extra outfits, and all of those outfits are just so fire. Like there's none of them that you're like, I don't like. I'm gonna be putting pictures so you guys can see all the pictures of the outfits that I had. So I was so excited. I landed in Switzerland and I was able to go to my friend's place straight from the airport because they couldn't come and pick me up. They had to be at work. So I went from Switzerland in Geneva to France directly. So I didn't really see much, but I was like, you know what? Since the distance between these two is so small, we can definitely come back tomorrow. So then we went back to Geneva and we were exploring, and you know, I remember we went to Four Seasons Hotel in Geneva, and that was just so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And we had the best time. I was slaying, that's when I brought my Christian Louis Vuittons, and I was, dressing up in the fanciest of dresses. Some of the dresses I had them for a long time, but most of them were like new, and I purchased them for the trip. But I remember like the dress that I wore in Geneva, this peach dress was actually my first graduation dress, and I was like, when I was packing, I was like, oh my gosh, I still have this dress. Let me wear it in Europe. Hello, from UJ to Europe. I was just like, it's such an iconic moment. Girl, the reason why we're here is because you graduated and now you're able to travel and do everything that you like. So it was a sentimental thing. Some of the activities we did was like just, exploring around the Geneva Lake, and I was just, having the time of my life. And then when it was time to go back to Annecy, I also then enjoyed a couple of days in the city. I was exploring Annecy Old Town because it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's in the north of France, but that part of France is so beautiful. It's filled with mountains, and it's got the best lakes. So the Geneva Lake is beautiful. It's got the clearest water, and Annecy itself also has the best lake. I was just so excited to be seeing like water so beautiful. I was just like, is this my life? Is this my life? 2 years ago, I would have never dreamt that I'd be in this situation. So it was really epic for me, and I was so excited. I stayed there for like a week more in Annecy, and then it was time for me to go to Paris. Oh my gosh, I remember I was so excited. Okay, so now it was then time to go to Paris, and that's when I was gonna depart from Annecy to Paris. And I was just like, one mistake that I made, I think, is that I had not really thought out my travel itinerary in the sense of, okay, I hadn't really completed everything in terms of buying my tickets. I had not bought my train ticket or my plane ticket to Paris, and I had not bought my plane ticket back to the UK. So what happened is when we were moving between Annecy and Switzerland, we were actually fined because we didn't know how to get the ticket, and the trains were spaced. There had a 1 hour difference between the train and the next one, and we found the train there and we didn't know how to get the tickets because we couldn't read Swiss, and there was just no one to ask. So we're just like, let's go in, because in London, well, I know that if you don't buy a ticket in London, they just walk around the train, and sometimes they just make you pay for the ticket. That's what happened last time I was traveling long distance on a train in London. But that was not the case, honey, because the officers came and then they were like, no, you guys got into the train without paying for your ticket, so we're gonna fine you. And oh my gosh, I had not budgeted for the amount of the fine that we had to pay. We literally had to pay like 100 euros, and I was like, oh my gosh, no. So I think apart from that, there were other expenses that I had not taken into account, I guess, since it was like my first time doing this whole travel touring thing, and I was going in between countries already, between Switzerland and France. And then like when it came to going to Paris, I was just like, okay, now I know the train system really works and I know how to get the tickets. So instead of me going to Geneva to fly to Paris, let me just take a train that goes straight from Annecy to Paris, and it was 3 hours. Oh my gosh, that story on its own is interesting because everything, just to remember, everything is in French, and you have to use Google Translate to like understand what they're saying. So I purchased my ticket online, and then late that night, before I was going to travel to Paris the next day, I get this little text and it's in French, and I couldn't even read it, but luckily or thankfully my friend had been learning French, so they were able to read the message, right? So they read the message, and it said something like, your train has been cancelled, and please speak to the people at the place. Mind you, the train was supposed to leave Annecy like around 5 a.m. because I wanted to get to Paris very early and maximize my time there. Oh my gosh. So now we don't even know who to contact, and that's what really one thing I noticed about traveling in Europe. When you need like customer service, honey, you will suffer. I suffered. we went to the train station and there was nobody to help. There was nobody, like it was very early, so fine, like the people were gonna start coming in around 10 and we were there around 6, 5, 6. I can't really remember, but I know it was an early morning train because I know we left the apartment and it was still dark. So we waited there and we were looking for the people that could help us, and then eventually we saw like the maintenance people that were cleaning up the place, getting it ready to be open. My friend was attempting to speak in French to communicate what was happening, and then they basically told me that there was nothing that could be done. The only thing that I could do was then ask for a refund, and that was the only train that was going to Paris. Or if there was another one, it was extremely expensive because their train system is good. Like it has first class, it has all of that. It's a really convenient and actually well maintained mode of transport. So I understand why it's like very expensive. So imagine I've been fined money already, and they're telling me that I need to pay an extra, I think 200 or 300 pounds just to go to Paris, and that's like a 3-hour train ride. But because I would have been buying on the day, the price would have escalated. And also, like, you know how when you take a train from a connecting train or a connecting flight, it's cheaper than a direct flight sometimes. So the one that I had taken was a connecting train that was going to take me to a city called Lyon, and then from Lyon I was going to go to Paris. There were no other trains that were going to Lyon directly, and the ones that went to Paris directly were just super expensive. I was like, I did not budget for this, like what is happening? I ended up buying another ticket. So what it meant was that I was gonna have to buy another ticket to Lyon because it was still cheaper for me to do the Lyon and from Annecy to Lyon, and then from Lyon to Paris route. So I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna pay like 300 pounds because that's literally more than the flights that I was taking in total. Like, I'm not gonna do that. So I was like, okay, let me find a way to get to Lyon. And then the kind people there, like the maintenance guys, were able to tell me like how to get to Lyon, but I had to also get 2 connecting trains. Oh my gosh. So I can't even understand any of the language, but I was able to like understand how to use the apps and how to know which train is which, how to like read from the screens which train is yours, so that when I get to the destinations where I was going, I would catch the correct train. So I leave Annecy eventually, like after hours of stress. So already I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, I'm kind of scared. This is kind of scary. So imagine my trip, which was supposed to be just so beautiful and rosy because it had started that way. I mean, everything had been good. I was going between France and Switzerland, and everything was just so rosy. And all of a sudden, I have been fined. All of a sudden, I've lost some money. Like, oh my gosh, and there's no customer service. So I was just like, you know what, let me have faith, because I mean, girl, this is your first time going to Paris. You cannot afford to be upset or sad and not enjoy your time there, and you have no choice. You literally have to go. Either way, you're gonna have to go back to London. So you know, let's go. So I went onto the train. I left my friend. It was a bittersweet moment because I knew, like, at least when my friend was there, I had someone who could translate some of the things, but now I was just by myself and had to wear my big girl panties. So I then traveled to Lyon. Eventually I make it to Lyon, and then when I'm now looking for my connecting train to Paris, they told me that it's left, and I was like, oh my gosh, are you guys able to get me on the next one without me having to pay? And then they were like, no, because the train companies were different. So since the train companies were different, they were not going to be liable for what the other train company did. And guess what? I had to pay again, honey. Oh, I was like, what is happening? Why did nobody tell me that this is what you face when you're traveling? Like, I'm saying, like my bank account, hello, you know. And you know, like I was just like, wow, I'm really losing a lot of money right now that I had not planned. And mind you, I still haven't bought my flight back to the UK, and then It's like, oh my god, I'm losing a lot of money. So I bought another ticket and I got into the train and I went to Paris. Finally. I remember when I was getting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, finally. But you know, like when you get somewhere and you've already been through a lot, it's like, I just want everything to go well. So I get there, I check in and I start exploring. I remember I went to the Arc de Triomphe. No, I actually went to the Louvre first and I was wearing this beautiful dress. I remember that dress, I got it like in 2022 December when I was going on my trip to Dubai, and I even took it with, but for some reason I just didn't find anywhere to wear it. So I was like, yes, it was meant to be worn in Paris. So I was so excited to wear that dress. I'm gonna insert pictures for all the outfits that I'm talking about. And then I brought out my Louis Vuittons, my Soul Kate. I was obsessed with that outfit. I remember it even rained. Like it rained so much. The moment I like stepped onto the Louvre, it started raining cats and dogs. It was just so weird. But I told myself like, this is my first experience. I'm not gonna make it, I'm not gonna not enjoy it basically. So I remember we even had to go like by the Mali. There's a restaurant called the Mali, and I sat there, set out the rain until it stopped raining. So I was like, okay, after it stopped raining, I went back, took my content, I enjoyed my time there. I remember like I was just praying, of course, a lot, because I was just like, I'm alone, I don't want anything to happen to me out here, and I'm all alone. My mother is in South Africa, my friend is in NC, and so far from everybody. And it was my first time doing a really solo trip, because when I went to Dubai, I was with a travel group, so that was good. So I was just worried and I was praying so much, and because of all that had happened, I think it was almost triggering, like it was causing me to be very anxious and very nervous the whole time. So I was just like, I'm hoping this Paris trip goes well, I'm hoping everything goes well, and I was staying so prayerful throughout. And to be honest, to be fair, like I tried my best to be positive. Like when it was raining, I think it rained most of the time when I was there, like every day it rained. And I remember the other time I was sitting in the garden, busy taking my content, like sitting, I'm gonna say the video, sitting on a chair with the pool, like there's this like fountain, not a pool, fountain behind me, living my best life in Paris. And all of a sudden gray clouds just start, and honey, the storm that started raining, the cats and dogs, with wind, my umbrella was useless. It's bad when you're carried by the wind. Like people were carried. It happened so abruptly that I was like, no, this weather's got something, I guess. I was like, no, weather, you can't be hating on the girl like this, like hello, you already did this at the Louvre, now you're doing it times 2. It was so bad. I even had to take off my heels because I'm like, no, this is not giving cute anymore. So basically that's the behind the scenes of some of the things that happen when you travel, but honey, I digress. I remember that day was the last day in Paris, so I was just like, okay, girl, you haven't booked your flight, you've lost so much money. You actually are someone who loves traveling by coach. Like that's something I used to do when, like since I was young, I used to travel long distances by coach, and I just used to love it. And I'll be playing my music and just laying back and like resting for the whole journey. So I love road trips, and ever since I moved to London, I just had not gone on a long road trip, like an overnight road trip. So I was like, how about you actually buy a coach ticket and you can sleep all the way to London. France and London and the United Kingdom are separated by the English Channel, right? So I was like, how about you do that? How about you buy a coach ticket and you can have a night of just having a road trip? I was like, okay, that sounds good. And it was going to be more affordable than me buying a plane ticket that late. And I was like, I've been losing too much money on this trip. Let me do that. Honey. Why did I do that? Somebody please ask me why I did that. Because I ended up losing more than I saved. Hello. I ended up losing more than I saved. So I had left my bags at a bag storage because I had checked out, and that's when I was at the garden, and then it rained and all of that, the wind. So it was just so devastating. So I was like walking from the garden, I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm just gonna go get my bags. I'm over this trip. I'm just gonna get my bags and go to the coach station and sit it out over there because I'm just done with this trip. Like, what is this, you know? Because it was so bad that people literally got, like, Paris has got houses in the middle of the city. I did not know that. The only way I knew that is because I saw people getting into their apartments. So the apartments are built in such a way that from the outside, you just see this big gate, and then when it opens, you actually see a courtyard, and then you see the nice apartments going around the courtyard. But from the outside, you would just not see that it's actually apartments. I entered into people's apartments courtyard, but I wasn't the only one. Everybody did, because the rain was crazy. Like, you couldn't even sit outside on the outside cafes. Things were just being blown away, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So I remember we were all sitting there with other people and other tourists and waiting for the rain to like go down. So after the rain went down, I was just like, okay, let me go grab my bags and get out of here. I've seen the Eiffel Tower. Oh, I forgot to mention, like, the Eiffel Tower. That was a sweet moment, honestly. So I also saw the Eiffel Tower. I waited for it to like light up. I had been dreaming of doing that. That was my dream. And I also saw the Arc de Triomphe, and I think I also checked out other places that I'm like forgetting, but yeah, those were the three main places that I really wanted to see, like the Louvre, Arc de Triomphe, and the Eiffel Tower. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, let's see what else Paris has to offer, but there was no more pressure, you know. So fine, I went and collected my bags, and I actually brought them back into the courtyard. So as I was thinking, like contemplating, like, should I go already to the coach station, because you know I'm gonna wait there for a bit. I was like, okay, no, I should go. So I went, but before I went, because I'd been so devastated, I had a big suitcase, and I also had a laptop bag, the size of a laptop bag. That's where I was keeping my Louis Vuittons, and I was keeping like jewelry. I was keeping my shades. I remember I also had like Louis Vuitton shades that I was gifted a while ago. So I just took everything out because I was so tired. I was like, if I put these things into the suitcase, then at least I just push the suitcase and I don't have anything heavy on my shoulder, because you know, when you've just been through a lot, it's just like you want to make your life easy. That was another mistake, honey, because then I put all my valuable items in the carry-on bag. Like, who does that? But I did it in that moment, and it made sense for some reason. I can't believe it was so last minute that I thought of that, and I actually acted on it. Like, if I hadn't done that, at least I would have saved my Christian Louis Vuittons. Honey. Anyway, so so funny. I can't, like, now that I look back, it's actually very funny. So I pack everything into the suitcase, and I have a light shoulder bag, so I was happy with myself in that moment. And then I go to the coach station. I waited for a bit. I was keeping in touch with my friend. I was also keeping in touch with my mom. And then I was like, okay, I got there and I got onto the coach, and my bags were put into the coach, and we were ready to go. Now, as I'm looking back, because I always like to look back on things and see where I made a mistake, or if something was my mistake. So I can definitely say, don't ever put your valuable items in your suitcase that goes into the carry-on. Always have your valuable items on you, with you, right? That's the first mistake. The second mistake I made is when I sat in the coach and I was feeling like, yes, I'm gonna have a road trip. In my head, I had this thought that you know what? Nothing's gonna happen now because I am in the coach and on my way home. Nothing's gonna happen. I feel like I kind of like when you don't appreciate that you were covered by God because you were praying the whole time, and then when you get into a coach and you're feeling sense of comfort from the environment that you're in and not from God who you've been relying on the whole time. Honey, please listen to me, because that was the worst mistake that I made. Like feeling like I'm safe because I am on my way home and not because God is with me. So now the journey to London begins. I've got my earphones on. I'm like, yes, I'm going home. I've never been so excited to go back to London. I think I was just traumatized, low-key, by that trip. But I had fun. I won't lie. Like, I enjoyed myself. I loved everything. Like, I really loved everything. So I was happy. So we're now on our way to London and we're still in France. And it's now dark out. And we stopped by a garage to just get some snacks and also get food to eat. Honey, listen carefully, because tell me why I started getting confused when I was in the garage. Tell me why I started feeling like I want to wash my face. Mind you, the bus driver told us 10 minutes, be back, and we're gone. Tell me why I started feeling like dilly-dallying, looking around the fuel station. Tell me why I started feeling like, okay, I've got time. I've got all the time in the world to buy whatever I want. And I even started washing my face. I don't know what got over me, but I don't know. I just got so confused and I started lazing around and I lost track of time. So 10 minutes passes and I'm still in the bathroom, or I guess I was now in the fuel station. I was now in the like shop, the little shops that they have, trying to see what I can get. Tell me why when I walk out of the garage I see no coach. I walked out and I was like, am I not seeing right? Because it's dark. Let me go back. Let me see. When I walked in, is this the entrance I used? I'm like, yeah. I go around. I'm like, no, this is not it. This is exactly the entrance that I used. The coach was right over there and it's not there. I'm in the middle of nowhere. It's dark. The people there do not speak English. Honey. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm getting PTSD from just recalling that moment, because when it struck that I do not have anybody and I've been left alone, I started having a panic attack. I think that's the first panic attack I've ever had in my life. I felt like my heart was gonna explode out of my chest. I started having a panic attack. I started crying. And then there was this old man who was servicing by the fuel station, and then I went to him and he couldn't understand English, but I was telling him like, coach, and then he then understood and it's like, oh, it left. Oh my gosh. I remember that day vividly. And then I saw some police officers. I went to them, I asked for help. They're like, no. I'm like, can you guys take me? And they were like, no, we cannot do that, and sorry, we cannot help. I started calling the coach customer service, and it was being directed to people in India. And they could not even link me to the driver. They could not link me to anybody. They were just like, we're sorry. That's our policy, 10 minutes, and if you're not back, you are left behind. Oh my gosh, I cried. What I'm really grateful for is when I walked out of the coach, I had my bag with me. My bag had my passport and my BRP. Honey, if I hadn't, God really did things there, because if I had left my bag, my little bag, my shoulder bag, the laptop bag that I removed expensive things from, if I had left it, I would have been crying tears of blood, because UK, where do you think you're going? You ain't going back into the UK without your passport and your BRP, honey. No, it's not happening. I was like, God, thank you. I hope I said that in the moment or even thought it, but like looking back, honestly, God, thank you. If I never said it, God, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do, because that would have been 10 times worse than me just being left by my coach in the middle of nowhere. I was crying. Then I see, so this old man now, he's like, I will tell you, like, when there's another coach that comes by. Like, he couldn't say it in English, but I think we understood each other. Like, it got to a point where I couldn't understand what he was saying. You know, I was so distraught that I understood whatever he was saying in that moment. And I remember there was another coach from the same company, but apparently it was going to Netherlands. And I went there, and the drivers were just so like off, like they were not even willing to help. No, actually, no, I'm wrong. There was another coach that was going to London, but it wasn't like, it was a private one. And I was like, can you please just take me to the border, like where there's so that I can then continue with my boss, with my coach. And then they were like, no, we can't do that, it's against our policy and like safety and all of that. It makes sense, but I did not understand in that moment. I was like, how can people like humanity? I'm literally stranded in the middle of nowhere in France. Help a girl. So I was crying, but they say no. My tears didn't help, but I was genuinely crying, you know. I wasn't crying so that they would help me. So eventually, I think after some time, there was another coach that was going to Netherlands from the same company as mine, right? And then the guy, like, he came and, you know, took me. He's like, oh, there's another one. And then we went there, and then he was talking to them, telling them what had happened. Those people were the kindest people ever, because the customer service line was not even helping me. No one knew that I had been left behind. No one even cared to communicate to someone else who can help. It was just like, it's your fault. And I was like, okay, even if it's my fault, what do you want me to do? So then I then went and I spoke to those guys, and those guys were like, oh, okay, we understand. Let's try and communicate. I think the ones that now started talking to people who actually have a thing to do, like who actually have, like, they started talking to other drivers, you know, the actual company and not some call center in India, you know. So then they spoke to the other drivers, and I don't know who else in the company, because they were speaking in French and I couldn't hear anything. And then they were like, you need to buy another ticket. There's another coach coming from Paris in like 2 hours. So it was gonna come in 2 hours, not in 2 hours to me, but like it was gonna leave Paris in 2 hours and then get to me probably after another 2 hours. So I bought the additional tickets. And then I ended up asking myself, why didn't you just book a flight? This road trip thing got away in my head that I lost more than I thought I was saving and what I was gaining, honestly. So I ended up buying an additional ticket, and then I sat in the garage for like 4 hours. I was even falling asleep. I had to buy a charger because I think I had left my charger plugged in the coach. And eventually they came. They already knew that there was someone because of those kind gentlemen that had called everybody in the company. So they called me. I was just like, oh my gosh, finally I'm going home. I was like, there is hope. But I knew like there was a gap between my coach, the one I was on, and the one that I was now on, the second one. So I was like, are we even gonna catch up to it? What's gonna happen with my bag? But I had hope. I was like, I hope they will have it. After longer than I was supposed to, I eventually get to London, and when I get to London, I go to their offices and I'm like, do you guys have my bag? And they're like, no, we don't have any bag. No one left any bag with us. I'm like, how is that possible? You know, like, how is that even possible that you guys do not have my bag? Like, what's up with this company? I was over that company, honestly. Went to the bathroom to do my liner and my lashes because I was really struggling to do it with this. So basically, I was saying, I got to the station and they told me that at the office that no bag was left. And they told me that the only option I have is to wait for the coach driver to come back on his way back to Paris. And then I can ask him. And because I couldn't believe it, like I couldn't take the news that there's a possibility that I lost all my beautiful clothes. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait, because the journey to go home from the coach station and come back was gonna be like a long, like 4 hours of just traveling. So I was like, I'm not gonna have energy to do that. Let me stay. So this is after a whole night of trauma, still sitting at the station waiting, and eventually around night time, so I've been in the station for the whole day now in London. I saw the guy, and then the people, they were also very aware because I had told them I'm gonna wait. And then I went to him. The first thing he does is start to shout at me. He's like, Clementine, Clementine, in French, and he's like shouting, he's very aggressive, and I'm like, wait, I'm the one who's been left behind. I know I stayed 10 minutes longer, but like, why are you shouting, you know? Apparently, they had gotten to the border post and immigration, and you know, where you have to declare your bags and whatnot. So apparently, because there was no one to claim the bag, they had been delayed, and the bag ended up being taken back to Paris. And then he just showed me this screenshot of this number. He was like, contact this company, contact this company. They're the ones that took the bag back to Paris. And then I was like, oh my gosh. So my clothes are not even here. So at that time, I saw that he wasn't someone who was willing to even help or like talk further. So I was like, okay, it's fine. I've done what I can, you know, let me go home and rest. So I eventually went home, and the first thing I did was start to call this company. They are not even aware of this. They're not even aware of that there was someone who took the bag. They're not even aware of anything. And then they kept calling them and telling them the story. And then they were like, we do not give out private information from like our clients, like as if the coach, the company that owns the coach, like they cannot give me information of what happens in that company. And I was like, but it has directly, the information is directly linked to me. But at that point, I was just like, you know what, it's fine. I tried calling again a few more times, and I was just like, you know what, I accepted defeat. But then I remembered I had actually done travel insurance, because one of the things you need to do when you're getting your visa is get travel insurance. So then the battle with the insurance company started, and it lasted for like 3 months. And I remember they ended up telling me that there were TNCs in the contract. So the highest payout that they can make for me is 200 per item. So my Christian Louboutins basically were kept to 200 claim. My dresses were depreciated. Like the one I was telling you that I got in 2022 was depreciated by like half of the amount, or more than half of the amount. All the other clothes were depreciated. I had to find past invoices. Thank goodness when I was in South Africa, I used to do a lot of online shopping, so I had the invoices. And some of the dresses, I remember I had gone with my mom to buy them at this other outlet that was there in South Africa that had all the beautiful UK brands. She still had the receipts, so she had to go into her archives to get the receipts. And after all of that, all those recons, all of that research and putting together evidence, they depreciated my claims. So I ended up getting like a small chunk of the worth, but I was just like, at least I got something. And I accepted my, you know, I accepted whatever had happened. But I'm starting to learn that, you know, you never really lose, especially when you're a child of God. Like the blessings will always come back in another way. And I also learned that I should never put my trust in an environment to keep me safe. I always need to put my trust in God, because He's the one that makes sure that I'm safe. Because even in the safest environments, you've seen like random things can happen, you know, accidents can happen. So I shouldn't have like tolerated that mindset that was telling me that, okay, you're good now because you're on your way back to London. No, I should have stuck to what I was doing the whole time, praying and asking God to cover me. And So that is the biggest lesson that I take away from this. So let me put on my lipstick and put on my clothes because I'm going to meet up with my aunt. We're gonna have lunch. These days I'm so into like a Hollywood glam look, so that's why I got this hair, and I always have it in this beautiful Hollywood curls. I'm obsessed with the style. Can you believe that like the curling roads can actually do such nice curls? Like I feel like I should do a tutorial of overnight curls because I think I'm mastering it. I actually did this at 1 a.m. and I'm surprised that they are looking so bouncy. I like them. Anyway, so basically that's the end of the story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit outside my comfort zone, but shout out to my friend Carol. I also call her Mylena. She's the one who was like, you need to start telling your stories. You've got so many entertaining stories and a lot of people can learn from them. And she was like, you can do them while you're getting ready so that you can just do 2 things at once. So shout out to you, Carol. I hope you watch this and you see this shout out. I hope you watch till the end because you're the one who convinced me to do this. Anyway, thanks guys for watching and I'll see you guys in my next video. Mwah.